live. Yay.
Yay.
I love when technology works.
Right. And when it doesn't, I just shut everything down and start again. Exactly.
Right. Take a break. My husband's in technology. So I do the people and he does the technology. We're like on the opposite ends of the pendulum, but that's super helpful because I'm like, take it. I don't understand computers.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Yeah, I want to throw stuff out the window when it doesn't work. So you're lucky.
Well, because I remember you shared a post. I know I'm going off a tangent, but real fast, you shared a post about how you and your partner are like really different. And I was like, yeah, I hear it.
Oh my God. On and on and on. I don't think we have any similarities, except we agree on how different we are.
So I know that we can at least relate on that front, right? But now that I've taken us off on a tangent, hello everyone. I am Toni, Dr. Toni. And this beautiful community, beautiful container that we're going live in today is our Reset community. We're really here to inspire, to enlighten, to uplift ourselves and one another, because I truly believe that's how we make the world a happier, healthier place. And today, for our Growth Through Adversity interview, we have an absolutely amazing human being who I've been watching in the background. And we actually had an initial connection through the Wellness Universe, and we didn't get to directly connect during our time there. And so I've just been watching her, and it seems like she's seen some of what I've done. And I need to reach out to Shari, because I mean, there's so many reasons why, but she was so gracious and courageous and saying yes to being with us today and sharing her story, at least part of her story with us today. And so Shari, I want to welcome you. I want to thank you. And I'm going to offer you a chance to tell us a bit about who you are, for those in here that don't know you, that would like to get to know you.
Well, first, yeah, thank you so much for asking me. Like, it means a lot. And you're right that I've seen some of your stuff. I mean, I watch your stuff too, because I think you just have a beautiful energy about you, down to earth, relatable, wise, kind, like just all of it. So I'm drawn to watching you. So I've seen a lot of your stuff. So I might be like a creeper stalker. So I was in a nice way, if there is such a thing. So I was very grateful that you asked me to be a part of this. So thank you for that. And just a little bit about me. This is always such a difficult question for me when people ask that, because I'm like, where do you go with that? So currently, right now, what's present in my life is that I am a speaker. I'm actually getting ready to do a TED talk, TedX talk, which is very exciting, on the 25th of this month. So like 2 weeks. So I've been throwing up a lot. No, no, it's a big thing, that it's been a bucket list dream of mine. So
I'm so excited for you. If you weren't going to bring it up, I was going to.
Oh, so. Yeah, no, it's the only thing like I'm focused on right now. So it's like, I literally just got out of a coaching session with my TEDx speaker coach. So yeah, so I'm working on that. And it's my greatest passion is speaking, being able to just inspire people with a story. Because I know, as you said, and the whole reason why you do this is because you know that telling your truth and being authentic and sharing vulnerably, it makes us feel less alone. And so that's what I feel like the stage does for me. I was an actress in a former life, so I love to be able to bring together both worlds, the love of being on stage and entertainment and that, but mixing it with a really important message. And then I'm a joy coach, consultant, guide, and I don't like the word coach for some reason. So I'm that, as well as an author. And that's really where I'm at right now. And just, every day showing up and doing the best I can.
Do you want to show us your book?
What, this whole thing right here? Yeah, it's called Love You're So Happy, A Journey Back to You. And it's the long detour of my life of, searching for happiness and searching for my worth and my validation basically everywhere else, and to ultimately come home to myself. And I break it up into little rest stops. It's a road trip, because road trips are my favorite. And so I break it up into like little detours and rest stops, and just ultimately telling the story and I think universal life lessons for all of us.
Wow. Was that one of the first times you shared your story so publicly, or have you been sharing your story publicly for a while?
Yeah, I mean, not in as much detail. I mean, like there are some chapters in here, like the story of my abuse. I actually shared that publicly for the first time at 7 on a witness stand. Um, so I was sexually abused at 7 and by a stranger. And so I shared that then, and I have spoken about it over the years. I've never hid it, but I've been one that has known for, I think since then, that I knew that our stories can help others, because I found out literally that day, because he, during recess, he pleaded guilty. And we found out that he had done this to other girls. So I found out, I don't think that I could have like understood it at the time, but I think it stayed with me, that I knew that by me sharing my truth that day, that it helped others and that I saved other girls. And so I have always known intuitively then that sharing my story and being vulnerable and open was something that I think we all needed in some way, and that there was someone out there that I would be able to help. And I did it online before anyone really was. And that's not like a claim to fame or anything like that. It was as soon as like cameras and being able to share stuff, like 2006, 7 on MySpace, I just started talking and sharing. And I, when I got pushback, like you really shouldn't share so much, or if you're this role and you want people, like, so there was a lot of that. And I always knew that it helped.
Wow. That I think is different than many people's story, in that there's so much fear or shame or stigma or that umbrella, under that umbrella of sharing our stories, our vulnerabilities in such a public and an open way. And it's sad, because I almost don't want to use the word vulnerability, because now it's like mainstream. And whenever something, when
something authentic, like transparent, I'm like, that's what it could be. Like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah. And I don't want it to seem fluffy, because it's not. Like, real vulnerability is hard, and it takes courage, and it is going against the grain in so many ways. And so I know part of your journey is what you just shared, which also, it sounds like, is also in your book, which I need to pick up, because I haven't done that yet. So I needed to pick it up. But you've also, I've seen you share that one of the big things for you, and correct me if I'm wrong, is people pleasing, or has been people pleasing. And I wanted to bring that to the front of our stage and ask if you could share a bit about the people pleasing challenges that you have really struggled with and had to come to terms with, and how you worked through them, because people pleasing and achieving are like two of the biggest ones that I see people get stuck in. Very well intentioned, very loving, very impactful, very powerful, successful looking people, that like they get stuck in that trap, all ages, and they're not sure how to get out. And I think sharing your story, you're headed to the TEDx stage. I mean, this is one of your dreams, right? Like, you're running your own businesses. You've written your own books. I mean, and yet you have still had these struggles of people pleasing, what that's meant for you and your relationships and your emotions and your development. And so would you mind just kind of, wherever that picks up the strongest for you, to share a bit about what that has been in your life, what that struggle has been like?
So, when the first thing that just comes to mind is, I think that I don't ever get past any challenge. Like, I haven't suddenly just healed and like suddenly the people pleaser is out the window. I've just learned how to recognize her and then know how to speak to her and put her at bay. You know what I mean? Like, because I think so often, and I just want to say this because I know with people that I work with and so many, like, we can get caught up in trying to get to this certain level of like healing. And then when we don't meet that level, we like get down on ourselves. And I was the same way, like, every day it was like, all right, how do I heal more today? And so with me, with the people pleasing, I mean, it started with when I spoke my truth that day, like on the witness stand. Like I said, I found out that I saved other girls, but at the same time, I also knew that my voice hurt people too. Because I sent a man to jail, and there was a lot of guilt that came with that. And then at the same time, my parents and the people around me they all supported and loved me, but they didn't know how to handle that. And so my dad got really quiet. And so then I took his silence around it as like him being ashamed of me. And my mom, she just wanted to protect her daughter. So she kept telling me all these ways, you know, to be around strangers and like, and you shouldn't be so naive and, you know, trying to like help me. And I heard it as my fault. And so I became very aware of how my behaviors, like really super in tune, and how my behaviors affected people. And my safety, I felt that if I didn't show up in a certain way or say a certain something, or if I rocked the boat and made somebody upset, I felt unsafe. Like, and I just had to make everybody feel okay around me. And that came at the detriment of relationships, specifically with men. I was in a lot of unhealthy relationships because I would speak up and say what I didn't like and how I felt like I wasn't being respected. But then immediately inside, I would like shrink inside and feel guilty about what I just said. And are they going to hate me? And am I not going to be liked? And am I, you know, and then I would just step back and like go back on the things that I said that I knew that I deserved. And, you know, and so that just kept showing up repeatedly in relationships. In business too, you know, I would say what I felt and then I'd make a joke out of it, you know, just kidding, even though it was my truth, because I was afraid that people wouldn't see me as the nice person anymore, or all these ideas that they had of me. And that all linked somehow to my worth. And, you know, of course, I wasn't conscious of it at the time. Now that I do continual healing, I recognize that. And I'll just look back to my worth. You know, I needed people to like me.
Well, I could feel when you were talking, tell me if I'm off, but I could almost feel when you're talking like this little image of little you who's like, yes, I stood in my power. I shared my story. I saved people. And then all at the same time is like, oh my gosh, my words are so powerful that they can affect other people's lives, but like in a bad way too. And then putting all of that responsibility on yourself, right? As a young child. And that young child part, I think is, I mean, I know, she doesn't go away. Those emotional wounds that don't go tended to, they don't just go away. And we're told as adults to get over it, or it's not a big deal, or don't be too sensitive, or we don't have time for feelings, or just focus on the light at the end of the tunnel. But like, that's us then neglecting her.
I did that for years, and because I pushed through, because the people that were around me told me how strong I was and how brave I was and how I saved people. And so anytime I would feel an emotion, I would push that down because I would be reminded that I'm strong and I'm brave. And so I reeled it all back in, you know, and like you said, it doesn't just go away. Like I still feel like when there's confrontation or something that I need to say, I still feel that flutter of like that scared girl that's afraid to speak up, but I do it anyway now because I know that I'm safe, and I'm reminded that I remind myself that I am.
And she is safe with you now.
Yes.
Right? You are that adult to her now.
Yes.
Like super safe.
Yeah. I hug her every day, literally every day. It's a practice that I started a few years ago. I'll just share it because it was transformational for me. I was in the shower, and it's, you know, where I do all of my, like so many people, like I do my speaking, my healing, my loving, like the whole nine. And I remember I just broke down, like I just had a moment and I broke down and I just said, the words came out loud that have said, all she wanted was a hug. Like at that age, I just wanted someone to say, I'm sorry this happened to you, and to just hold me. And then I heard clearly, so give her a hug. And so in the shower, I literally just wrapped my arms around myself and I just cried and held her. And it was the most free, like that I have felt in so many years. And so now I just continue it every day in the shower, that she gets a hug. She gets told I love her. I'm proud of her. I'm here with her. I'm not going anywhere.
It's so beautiful. And it's the work that and it might be similar to some of the work that you do with your clients. It's the work that I do with my clients, recognizing these different parts of us, these parts of us that their emotions, they get activated because of things we've been through. And if they're not resolved, if they've not resolved in like they're just checked, marked off and done, but resolved in that it was not a wound left open or neglected, it was actually tended to, it was nurtured, right? They don't just go away, and they come up, and we now become the adult that has to tend to them. But like, how do we do that if we don't even know what they are? We don't know, right? Like if we're used to shutting them down or letting them take over, or if we're like scared,
using like vices, you know, like, so the way that I dealt with all of that was with food. Like food was my thing that I stuffed my feelings down with, and, you know, and then there was alcohol. Like then when I curbed the food, then it became alcohol. There was always something, because I didn't want to sit with those feelings. Yeah.
So this showed up for you, it sounds like, in your relationship, obviously with yourself, with food, and then in your relationship with men too, in unsafe situations. At what point did you start to notice this, something has to shift? Or like, at what point did things start to change for you? Did it have to get worse before it got better?
Yeah. So because I was so in tune to my emotions and my feelings from like a really young age, like just being aware of stuff, like I just have always felt like I'm walking into the room and I'm feeling the energy. I'm one of, you know, those people. There was always, I always had this vision that there was more for me. I didn't know how to get there. And that was where all the years of like in circles and doing things again and again. But I always had this belief, like it felt like there was this dangling carrot that was like, here we are, come on, you know, like just come towards me. And I took like the detours and the roundabouts to get there. And I think I was just emotionally exhausted, Toni. Like I kept showing up in different relationships, but, you know, the same clothing, like men, and you know, dressed differently, but I mean, the same thing again and again. And then always saying, God, you deserve more. Like, and then thinking it was all them. And then slowly over time going, could there really be this many bad men out there? Like, is this really them, or is this about you? And so I always knew, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, that sounds really hard. Just that acknowledgement, right?
Yeah, but that though, it was so exciting for me. It was really strange because it felt like this whole world opened up for me, like a possibility, when I realized that I had a choice, that, whoa, this is me. Like I can make a different choice here then. Like I don't have to go down this road. And that for me, is as scary as it was so exciting, and the possibilities. And that's like when I realized that, which took years, but it was repeating the same thing over and over again. That's when I was able to start making different choices. But there was a specific moment though that I remember, that I was hanging out with one of like my male best friend, and we were drinking, and it was like one drunken night. It was my 20s. And I was complaining again about another relationship. And he said to me, Shari, what kind of woman do you see yourself as then? And I said, what do you mean? And he said, what do you see yourself as? And I think it was the first time that I even thought about it. And I said, well, she respects herself, and she's confident, and she loves herself. And I just rattled off all of this stuff. And so he just looked at me and he said, so be her. And it sounds so simple. And if maybe you said it to me a week before, I wouldn't. And I go, oh, be her. And I was acting at the time, like that's when I was, you know, pursuing. And then I thought to myself, well, I can play this woman that I see myself ultimately as. And I started with that one step. What I did was, when someone texted me, a man, a relationship, and it was not good for me, I said to myself, what would that woman do right now? And I literally said she wouldn't text him back. And so I didn't. And then that one choice turned into the next choice and the next. And then I started to notice that I started just like feeling better. And then when somebody toxic would come into my life, that toxicity, like I actually felt it in my body, and I was like, ooh, that doesn't feel good. And that's how I slowly began making better choices for myself and weeding people out of my life. And then that just opened up, of course, the floodgates to other things of like just the possibilities for myself.
Wow, that's what I call that the weed and seed process, like seeding in more of what you want, but weeding out, you know, those pieces. And it's so beautiful how you describe that. And you were just open to the conversation, to hearing, to receiving what someone was saying without your defenses up, which is hard in and of itself.
Yeah. Generally, yeah. I think I was so desperate, I think, at that point. And again, I always had this knowing that that my life didn't have to be this way. Like I looked around at other people and I thought, like, well, what am I, like the punished one? Like, is it only me that my life's supposed to be hard? Like, why am I different? And so I just always questioned stuff. And like I said, I didn't have the roadmap to get there. No one ever showed me how to be this person, or, but I just knew that it was a possibility, and I just wanted to do whatever I could to get there.
And how about when it got harder on that road?
Oh, it's still hard some days. Like, the more and more I peel back layers, the more I see wounds still there. I'm trying to think, because like that time was like, it feels like centuries, like a different person ago, I made mistakes, I didn't, like, suddenly, all of a sudden, like, I didn't have any more unhealthy relationships. It was like as if each one were still bad, but they got better. Like, and then my time with that, like my patience or what I would put up with changed. So I would start with it, and then I'd put up for it one time instead of 3 times. Right. Like, and then I would be down on myself for getting, like, I would punish myself, like, with thoughts and critique about, like, why did you let yourself do that again? And that was really hard on me, Toni. Like, I think the judgment that we place on ourselves is often harder than the actual circumstances themselves. So I think that that's where the hard part really, like, started to set in, because now I no longer had to blame the people for what they did to me. Now it was like, oh, so I got rid of the people that were hurting me. Now I'm seeing that I'm still victimizing myself. Yeah. And that just took continued showing up and continued learning and continued listening and continued, I listened to speakers. I went to workshops. Like, I did all the self-development, type stuff. I tried going to a therapist, but I was like, oh my God, I've done more reading than you. And I like, it just didn't work for me at the time. But she said one thing to me that did stick out for me. I was, like, talking about my parents, and the reason why this is important, because I think so many of us have guilt over the things that we're upset about. And I kept saying, but they're such good people. They did their best. And she said to me, you can still love them and be angry at them at the same time. And I was like, oh, what? And then that was like everything for me. And then I realized, yeah, I guess I can. And that's when I think I really actually started getting in touch with my real emotions.
Yes. That's a really, really big one too.
Yeah.
So if we can't feel angry at our parents, or we are only blaming our parents, either way, we're denying our own emotions and taking care of ourselves.
Yeah. And so she was like, yeah, you trusted your parents, like and you were 7 and they didn't, and because I was like, but they did the best they could, all that. So those are the parts when you ask me, like, what about when it got harder? That was all really hard, to have to start to feel everything, because I had numbed everything for so long. But I just kept showing up. That's what I always say. I just kept showing up for it, because I saw how I had already gotten further along towards that carrot that was there waiting for me. So I just showed up.
Yeah. For folks that might be listening in and maybe can resonate with your story in some way, maybe it's around the people pleasing, maybe it's around the abuse, maybe it's around the relationships and the toxicity there. But for those that are, like, in it, and they're either feeling like there's no way out because they're the victim, or they're feeling like there's no way out because these people are to blame and there's nothing they can do to change them. What is kind of the message that you would like for them to hear from you, like, heart to heart, now that you have been through so much? And of course, you're still on your journey, like all of us, but is there a particular message that you would like them to hear that are kind of in that thick of it right now?
Well, I always want to say that there is always light, like there is, and it's hard to see it when we're in what feels like the darkness. What helped me, as I said, was having that vision and that direction for myself, because so I think that if we can create that first, if we can just see ourselves on the other side, what does that look like? And then be able to know where we are and what are the things that we would have to do in order to meet that person. You know, that alone for me, like having that direction and vision. And for me, that who gave me that, by the way, was Oprah Winfrey. Like, cause yeah, well, you know, when I was 12 years old and she was the first person that spoke openly about abuse. And when I heard that, and I knew that because I struggled for it all those years on my own. So when I saw that, that gave me direction. It was like, oh, so she went through that and she's here. And so that's what I would say is, number one, just see yourself first, where you ultimately want to be, whatever you want to feel like. And then the other thing that has been a saving grace for me every single day is compassion with myself. Like that I'm doing the best we can, that you're doing the best that you can. And that everything that you're feeling is okay.
It's a big one, right? There's both of those are so big. And it's a concept that we can logically get ourselves to. And because I talk about those exact same two things that you're talking about as well. And I know I wrestled with them too. You know, it's like, no, I have to hold myself to a higher standard. Like, you know what I mean? Like, or I have to take care of it. So that compassion piece was missing for myself. Or there's the emotions. Like, who has time for emotions? I've got stuff to do. I've got goals, right?
Totally. Push, go. Like, yeah, I got to show up and do.
It is not how our society sets us up. So hearing that someone who is moving through, has been through so many pieces, including abuse and toxic relationships, and hearing that there is relief in that, I think is really powerful. And I would agree with what Shari just said, that if you are someone who is feeling like maybe you're in the thick of something right now, and maybe you're poo-pooing it and you're like, oh, well, other people have it worse. That's one I hear a lot.
Yeah.
Right. You don't have to do that. Other people can have it worse. And also you could feel a whole bunch of crap right now because you're dealing with a whole bunch of crap, and that is just as valid. And until we accept that our emotions are okay, until you accept that your emotions are okay, until Shari accepted that her emotions are okay, you stay feeling that stuck, trapped kind of feeling. And so acceptance, it's like this surrender that we're all often
I know. And it's like we set ourselves up. Well, I think society sets us up like that. Like, and I'm actually talking about this a little bit in my TED talk, by the way, is, you know, this standard, this gold standard of living, of happiness. And this is where we all need to be. And then as soon as we're not feeling that, then we feel badly about ourselves. Like, why aren't I here? And it wasn't until, again, that I realized that I am a full human being with full range of emotions. And yes, happy feels good. But guess what? Every time that I've been sad or angry or frustrated, I've learned more about myself and I've grown deeper into myself. And so giving myself that permission, and all of us that permission to feel it. And also, really important, one last thing I'll say is that trust, to know that we are that soft landing pad for ourselves. That even no matter how challenging things get, and no matter where we end up, that as long as we have ourselves to come back to come home to, that will always be okay. Always.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's an abstract concept for a lot of folks, especially like my really analytical folks, which I get it. But I can tell you that I agree with what Shari's saying. There is this sense of, if we can have faith, at least faith, if not yet in yourself, then just faith that there is something greater, or something bigger, something beyond what we can see or logically figure out, that does have our wellness in mind. That wellness is at the core of what's created, because otherwise life wouldn't keep going on, right? Like we wouldn't be evolving. Like there is a core concept of wellness in our world. If we can at the very least just have faith in that, sometimes I think that can help with, like, there are seasons, and some of those seasons are much more gloomy in our lives, but that makes those seasons where there's spring and summer, that, you know, all of those other pieces so much more powerful and inspirational, and just feeling so much better. So
yeah,
Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
No, please.
No, I was just going to say, like, in a way to make something more tangible, when I think about the landing pad for myself, like what I'm able to do is to look back at every challenge that I've ever been through and see how I've gotten out the other side, see what's improved from it, literally connect the dots, as I think it was Steve Jobs said, see how I've grown and see that I've made it and I'm still here. And that when that challenge shows up at my door, which it always will, because there's always going to be something, I'm able to actually look at evidence of how I got through stuff. And that helps me know that I will do it again.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, because we can gather evidence either which way, right? Let's be intentional about what we're gathering.
Yeah. Totally. And that little bit of spark, that hope, I mean, that's what kept getting me through every day. It was like, you can do this, you can do this.
I love it. I love it. Shari, are there any last words, bits and pieces, statements of like power, significance that you would want to leave our audience with today, whomever that may be, at whatever point in time they may come across your story?
The running theme of myself in my life is to be gentle with myself. No matter what choices I make, because there are days that I don't make the greatest choices for myself. And there are other days that I do. And all of them, I'm human. I remember that. And so the only thing I want to leave people with is just be gentle. Just be gentle with you. Like, I don't think anybody comes into this world being intentionally mean or intentionally this or that. Like, we're all just doing our best we can and showing up the best we know how, based on, you know, the things that have happened to us. And if we continually just show up for ourselves, I think, well, I know we're going to be all right.
Yeah, we'll be all right. For sure. So, Shari, what I like to do to end is I like to ask, because we are big on inspiration and fueling inspiration in this community, just to ask you, who or what is something that is really inspiring for you and your life? Maybe it's someone you know directly and you're close to. Maybe it's someone that you're not super close to, but is you know, a model or a celebrity in some way, but someone or something that really provides inspiration for you in your life when you need it most.
This is going to sound so narcissistic, but me. Because Oprah was it for me and is it and always will. But when I really dig deep and I think about, when I look at that little girl that sat on that witness stand facing the man that abused her and feeling so much fear, feeling terrified that he would come out and find me. And the fact that I'm at where I'm at right now, that all the cards were against me, and I'm still here and doing well, that is my inspiration every day.
I love that. I love that.
So I know I'm like, oh, see, that was like the little bit of there was an example of the little bit of the people pleaser. Like, I don't know if it's people pleaser, but worrying about, is this going to be, and then going, it is what it is.
Well, I mean, there's so much power in what you just said, but to be your own inspiration means that you are never without it. You can always tap into it. You can always tune into it. You can always connect with it in some way, even when things bump, because they will.
Because this is life.
Right?
Yeah.
I love that. I love it. Oh, thank you so much, Shari, for sharing this space with us, for sharing your story, for sharing your emotions, for sharing your time. All of that is so valuable and so precious. So I'm so grateful. And I know that this is also not just your life, but it's also the work that you share with the world. So are there any bits and pieces that you would want to share as far as how people could connect with you or check out your book or check out your work if they would like to reach out?
Sure. First, thank you so much for holding this space. You create a beautiful community, and it's not the first time I've heard about how welcoming you are, and you just open up space so thank you for having me. And then you could find, like, it's not there. You can find my book on Amazon. Love Yourself Happy. And then you could just go to my website, sharielise.com. I offer joy sessions, which ultimately means people are like, what's a joy coaching session? And really what it is for me is the return back to self. So I just teach practices of self-love, and that's where my joy ignites.
I love it.
So you can just check that out.
I invite everyone to check out Shari. She's amazing, as you can see, as you can hear, as you can tell. So check her out, support her. If you have questions for me, I'm of course happy to answer those for you all as well. Happy to connect you with her in any way that I can. So thank you all so much. Have an amazing day. I'm going to end our live stream. Leave comments, questions below. Shari's in the group. You're in the community now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So she'll see if you tag her, she'll see your questions, comments. And do hashtag replay. Let us know that you were here. Bye, y'all.
Bye.